Hello and welcome to Conf42. I am Maksim Kupriianov. My talk today is network incidents, what to know before the chaos strikes. Few words about myself. I work as a site reliability engineer, production engineer, before that system administrator for a lot of years, and I've seen a lot. I'd say I wish I see them less, but yes, that's true. A lot of different incidents, and those of them who were connected to or root caused by the network services were the most devastating ones. Let's dive deep. What is actually a network incident and why it's so devastating? First of all, a network incident is just an unexpected event that disrupts or degrades critical network services, impacting the availability, integrity, or performance. Sounds very similar to any other incident, but the point is critical network services. Let's take a look what they are. And these are DNS, DHCP, routing, VPN, these are infrastructure services. They are security services including firewall, intrusion detection prevention, security certificate centers, physical access control. These are directory services, yes, so you can't authenticate or authorize your users. These are cloud and container orchestration, or just web services which deliver your traffic, CDN, load balancers, or web service architecture. That's a very sensitive point, sensitive layer of software for any organization. And why these network incidents dealing with these critical services are so disruptive? First of all, they I'd say almost every time they lead to cascading failures. For example, if a DNS server failed, very likely that a lot of services that are still dependent on DNS will start to malfunction. By the way, please never depend on DNS if you can avoid it by any cost. But still, a lot of services still do that. Then you lose your monitoring and diagnostic tools, not them, but access to them. Usually it's very frequent story. Then downtime affects multiple stakeholders. Yes, people will come to you or your network engineer or site reliability engineer with a question. What's going on? We can't work. Nothing is working. Do something with that. Difficulty in triage. Modern networks are very complicated, especially big ones. It takes a lot of time to find the root cause, to triage it, and to fix it afterwards. Time-consuming troubleshooting. Yes, time is just money in that case. If your business is not working, you're losing money. Increased security risk. That can happen for two reasons. First of all, you can, firewall or whatever can be malfunctioning. And another story is you can make a temporary exemption for fixing the issue, and it could lead to attackers to come in and do something very violent. Of course, reduced business operations, that's basically, it's all what it means. Let's take a look at a couple of examples of the recently happened network incidents with the big tech companies happen in 2020, 2021. There is no 2023 and 2024 because I was not able to find them. There were no big incidents, but still some of them probably happen. Okay, so let's start from just briefly, Cloudflare outage. It's happened in July 2022. It took 20 minutes. Basically, it was a misconfiguration in router, which led to the router malfunctioning and overloading one of the sites. Then Google Cloud outage, authentication issue. Google accounts authentication failure was in that time. So services like Gmail, YouTube, and Google Drive were down for about an hour. Then Microsoft Azure and Teams outage. Actually, Teams were not working for 3 hours. It happens again because the Active Directory failure, so authentication. Fastly CDN outage, bug triggered by customer configuration. You see, 1 hour. Facebook outage, 6 hours. That happened because the software was not correctly handled in several conditions happen in the network. Just error in developing. Amazon Web Service, AWS outage, 6 hours and 30 minutes. And again, that's actually a software issue, I'd say. What we can take from that? In the IT world, network incidents are as certain as sunrise. So if you never had them, you probably will have them at some point of time. The anatomy of a network incident. Let's dive inside of how things usually start and develop. First of all, initial situation, you have a very healthy green system. The network is fine, systems are fine, everything is working perfectly, but then hardware failure, for instance. It could be a power supply of your router, switch, or line card, whatever. It could be more tricky stuff. I've seen from my experience like a malfunction in central processing unit which start to mess up data. Things could go immediately wrong or they can take some time to develop, but still. Software issue. Two situations could happen here. First, just a software bug. Sometimes it happens, by the way, quite frequently. Another story is unsupported scenario, and that is very frequent nowadays because unfortunately developers are not gods, they don't know everything. The systems sometimes can predict that they can be put in such a situation that they just can't handle. And that's also a software issue. Human error. Usually it's a misconfiguration story, untested configuration, or just wrong configuration, mistype, whatever it can be. Security breaches is usually some kind of external factor, but someone trying to make a denial of service for a service, or just external factors. This is usually the most simple to triage things. It could be the flaw, or it could be a kind of fiber cut, or again, from my experience, I've seen quite crazy things with the animal somehow got into the transformer, caused a short circuit, which caused the fire, and it's caused a power outage. It can happen as well. Unfortunately, we can't do anything with that, just external factors. And my favorite, market-related events. I was working for several years. Well, the marketplace and usually Black Fridays were very hot for us. And when a Black Friday starts, a lot of people come to your services, a lot of people start to make transactions, and it depends a lot on how professional you are in capacity planning before that. So you are very close to the overload at this point, and this can happen. Sometimes it happens at random, unpredicted moments. It could be. Market is chaotic sometimes. First of all, after the initial trigger, again, it could develop for a week, but usually it starts right after that. What do you see? You see the service outage. That's obvious. For instance, a file server can stop working, database, communication system, anything. Customer-facing application, websites, it can start to fail. Alert storms. All the monitoring and alerting tools send out a lot of alerts. Multiple systems and services detect failures. The team could be overwhelmed with these alerts, or it could be even worse when you don't receive any alerts at all because system is unreachable completely or just malfunctioning. User complaints, of course, employees and customers, usually very social media starts to make some posts, like any other media can start to join this party or whatever. So yeah, this happens. What's next? Unfortunately, network incidents, they very rarely remain isolated. First of all, interdependent systems start to fail. For instance, authentication service goes down. All the services dependent on the user authentication authorization can fail as well afterwards. And applications can start to be slow or just failing or unresponsive. And the worst thing about that, which can happen, and that's frequently happen, they start to retry. If one operation fails, applications start to retry the operation. And the application before that application also start to retry the operation. And they create such a big wave of requests that they usually kill their underlying services completely. Traffic bottlenecks, that's a network thing. So if the network incident, if it happened because of a route misconfiguration or maybe a fiber cut or whatever, your links could be overloaded and it could lead to all the service using these links failing. Resource exhaustion, that's what I was talking about, the many retries. Each device has its own hardware limits, and if you start to send to a server 1,000,000 requests per minute instead of 100, as you did previously, yeah, probably it will not handle it. It will fail. Then you'll lose visibility and control, and that's a very difficult thing because first of all, your inaccessible monitoring tools your monitoring tool story becomes inaccessible. It's a very frequent thing can happen, and you just don't know what happened in your network with your services. Remote access issue, you can just lose access to your network completely because of authentication, because of physical failure, anything. It just doesn't exist anymore. Or communication breakdown, for example, email or messaging applications can be down. It's difficult to coordinate. Teams just don't know what's going on. Like individual people can't understand what's going on, what to do. And incident may expose the network to additional threats. Why? It can happen not only because of the network incident happened, but because of the how you try to fix that. Sometimes for that, some holes in firewalls are made, or just firewall is disabled, or some simplified applications are landed which can handle the situation. But it can help. But sometimes attackers just wait for exactly this to happen, to go on. So be aware. Usually it's a very bad practice to decrease security level during the incidents. And of course, team face multiple obstacles in terms of like stress and pressure. These network incidents, they are usually now people get very nervous because nothing is working and you face a stress and pressure from your stakeholders and from your team members, whatever. You have prioritization dilemmas to solve. So what start to do first, fixing this or that, you don't know, you need someone to consult to, or it's difficult. Communication with stakeholders, they are being very tough because you are fixing the service. You don't have time to talk to anyone else, and stakeholders, they want the service to be working back. They try to communicate with you, but you're not answering. All this stuff happens. What are the key takeouts from this anatomy story? Network incidents have multiple triggers, so anything can start an incident. Sometimes you can never thought about it, like I said, an animal transformer. How did it get there? I don't know. Interconnectedness magnitudes impacts. Network services are very critical because a lot of other services depends on them, and this is a cascading event. It's a chain event. Things can go pretty bad. Loss of visibility complicates response. Yes, of course. If you don't see what's happening, you very frequently you can't even tell if the network is faulty or something else. Preparation. Now let's talk about how can you be prepared for such a network incident event. Key steps you have to take. First, you need a kind of a network redundancy. And by that, I not only mean like just having multiple network paths or setting up multiple routers or whatever. Geographical redundancy as well. Because for the external factory events, it could happen that in this particular area, you need to be present somewhere else to continue the operations. So you have to do this. And this have to exist before the incident strikes. Out-of-band management network is crucial story. If the network is the issue, it means that you are losing access to your services at all. You get access to your devices at all. And the only way you can do something with your network services, devices, whatever, you can write to a data center with the console cable and fix something from there. So if you think before and you can build an out-of-band management network, things can go pretty well. You just connect from the, let's say, opposite side, you make the changes, you fix the issue. Data backups, of course. Sometimes network incidents can lead to data loss, unfortunately, and data backups is crucial for this. Especially, just to remind, data backups should not be held in the same location as the system services are working. Failover systems, that's pretty obvious story. If you know that any server can fail, you need something to overtake it, work. Very important step to take is to conduct regular system audits and health check. And by this, I don't just mean having a PDF with all green marks checks that everything's fine. It should be a continuous thing. And we're talking about network assessments and hardware maintenance, capacity planning. You should work on this all the time, continuously. And subset of monitoring tools and dashboards, it's definitely must be accessible out of band. Just imagine your network is not working, service is not working. How do you understand what's going on actually inside of it? You need something to monitor this, some access tools. You can rent some services elsewhere, export some part of data there. Usually it's not a kind of secret thing of data, it's just some general health metrics. You need to have them somewhere. Another very important thing is to develop a comprehensive documentation and playbooks. Usually, all the company I was working with, it's usually a painful thing to have a comprehensive documentation, because since systems they are being developed continuously, they are changing continuously, and the best documentation you can have is in your code. But for these network-related incidents, you need to have at least playbooks, and these playbooks and network documentation, they should be available remotely, out of band, external backup, whatever. You need to have it remotely. You won't have an access to them when systems will fail. So just have a copy somewhere else and regularly check that you can access this copy, because crazy thing can happen. People can just forget the alternative password, forget where they stored it. Okay, and finally, drills. You need to fire drills in your network. It's very important. They should be done on the regular basis, drills and simulations. So you need to be able to take down your systems, components of it, to see how things goes. For instance, what will happen if the DNS server will go down? Just turn it off in some location. See what will happen if you have some health budget on your systems. Ensure that your team is prepared and evaluate and update the response plans. Yes, these things like slightly a lot of work. But if you want to save some time, money, nerves, whatever, just mental health during the network incident, if you will do this, you will be prepared for these network incidents. Let's recap. Preparations is an ongoing process. Always have a backup plan. Fire regular drills. And like with all of that, the benefits outweigh costs. Yes, you will spend a lot on this, a lot of time, a lot of money, but you better do this than not. So let me give you some tips on how to better behave during the incident, to fix it sooner, to get less penalties from that. And first recommendation is stay calm. It's probably the most important one. Stay calm. If you get into panic, then probably you won't be as effective. The network incident will take much longer time. It will be harder to fix, whatever. Stay calm. The second step, you should gather initial information. There could be logs, there could be alerts from your systems. And for that to happen, you need to out-of-band access or backup. Sometimes they're still accessible and available. It's just depends on how lucky you are. Also, user reports, sometimes they find the problem before any other systems will come into play. And you should determine the scope of the impact, which systems are affected, and like how many of them. Then establish incident command. This is, again, a very important step. You have to take it. You need to assign someone as an incident manager. It doesn't mean that like he is the manager, the captain, whatever, but he is the point of contact for everyone else. And while some of your team will be very deep diving inside the debugging, triaging, fixing things, this captain will maintain the current state of the incident and will communicate with the another teams, communicate with the stakeholders, and synchronize the team activity. So it's very important, and it's better be prepared beforehand. And that I'll talk about training previously and drills. So you should find the way who will be assigned to this incident manager role. Then secure communication channel. Your team need to have an effective way to communicate during incidents. It could happen that, for instance, if you use a company-wide messenger or whatever, it could be broken because of the network incident. Especially it's true for big companies which have their own communication solutions. You should have alternative one, and everybody should know how to use it and how to get inside of it. A lot of incidents happened when people were just not aware that they have a kind of IRC channel or alternative messenger or how to reach other people. Sometimes they just were not able to even find the phone of their colleague to contact with. So please do this beforehand. And inform stakeholders. Here, honesty is the key. You better use a very simple, no technical terms. In a very simple words, you should describe to them what's going on and what are your thoughts about it very briefly, but they should know. If they won't get the information, things can get very worse for you after the incident. So you better be communicative with them. Then you have to prioritize what to fix first. It's also very important. Identify a critical service. Identify which service you can sacrifice, maybe not completely, but just to put it in the second stage or whatever, and determine the root cause. Again, everything is important here. So determine the root cause as well and develop an action plan and follow it. These 3 rules to what to do. This sounds very simple, but usually it's very difficult to do, but still, this is important. Develop action plan and follow it all the time. So if different people from a team start to do different things, not according to plan, things could get even worse. Communication. Everyone who are not working, affected by the incident internally, maybe sometimes externally, and external clients, whatever, should know what is going on. They don't need technical details. Usually what they want to know is when you will fix it and could we run something even if these things are failing, or could we do something with that, something like that. So please establish a communication protocol and do regular updates with the current status. That's incident manager is for. Sometimes there's an alternative role as a journalist, but it's for very big companies, for very big incidents. Usually incident manager is pretty fine with that. Inform all affected parties and maintain open lines within the team. First of all, you need to share the findings, somehow internal chat, something. Second, don't be afraid to ask for help. Don't sit inside of the problem alone. Just share it with people and let them help you. Sometimes you never know where you can get help from, but there are a lot of smart people around and they have their own experience and they can get the idea. Sometimes they can just the hands to help, whatever, and stay positive. Yes, that's it's hard, I know. But if you're not calm, if you're not positive, it just will you will be less effective and it will take longer time to fix the issue. If to talk about common pitfalls which can happen during the incident, and number 1 is not rushing without a plan. It will just add more chaos to your incident situation. The second one is poor communication, either within a team or with the stakeholders. Poor communication within the team will add more stress, will make you less effective. Poor communication with the stakeholders, not giving them information about the current state, will probably make them disappointed in you as a service provider or employee or whatever. Number 3 is ignoring protocols and procedures. Please don't do that. Several protocols and procedures were introduced not just for fun, but for security or legal reasons. And avoiding them could make things even worse. The 4th one, overlooking the root cause. If you missed with that, you can heal some kind of symptoms, and the situation can reappear very soon. Look deeper. And the final, but also very important thing is neglecting team well-being. And what I mean by that is that if the incident is quite long, it could last hours or sometimes days. The team could be overstressed and prone to mistakes. So if you can introduce kind of rotation within the team or something like this, it could help. Think about that. And finally, let's recap. So, first of all, during the incident, stay calm and positive. It's the most important rule, as I said. Please do that. Second, effective communication is critical within the team, with the stakeholders, both very important, with the clients, of course. Teamwork matters. Don't be afraid to ask for help. Always share all your findings. Just work as a team. Work together. You will solve this incident faster and most efficient. Prioritize actions. You should approach the problem step by step. Take the most critical step, make it, the next one, and so on. And avoid the pitfalls we described in the previous slide. When the incident is over, you still need several things to be done. First of all, analyze what went wrong. And by that I mean that you need to have a post-incident review procedure and root cause analysis. You need to clearly understand why the incident happened, what was done well during it, and what could be improved. These 3 things. Then create a feedback loop, and by that you should update all the runbooks of the systems that were involved in the incident. They could be outdated, they could be wrong, they could be just not present, because if you don't do this, you're waiting for the history to repeat itself. And finally, every network incident is troublemaking, at least. It could be very expensive, finally. But it's an invaluable source of the learning experience. Please use it to strengthen your system, your infrastructure, to train your team, finally. And stay calm, be positive about that. It's already happened to you. You already passed through the incident. I hope network incidents will never happen to your company, but if they will, you are now ready for them. And thank you for your attention. It was Conf42. If you have any questions, you are welcome.